In case you don't know, I love growing fig trees. They're so easy to grow, there's so many different varieties, they taste yummy, and they're super hardy. You can not water them for a couple of weeks that they're bone dry. Water them and they'll come back to life. They're pretty awesome plants. However, they do have a bit of a reputation for being wild, for having exorbitant growth, getting long limbs, but that's not how you should see a fig tree. I like to grow fig trees in pots just because I get more control over them. I can move them around and you get the same result. You can have a thick stumped, well-shaped, big, mass-producing fig tree in a 35 to 45 centimeter pot. It doesn't need more than that, and it doesn't need to be in the ground. But what this video is about is controlling the energy in your potted fig tree to make sure it's growing evenly, so you don't get like this one shoot off that's just going to get longer and thicker than all the rest, and it's going to keep dominating the resources from the rest of the branches. So here is a good example of a well-structured fig tree that is distributing energy equally. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. Fifth one might come off, we'll see. But they all have roughly the same amount of foliage on it. They're all getting ready in the nodes to start setting fruit. So this is a very well-balanced tree. And why this is balanced is throughout a couple of seasons I've been pruning and making sure that this plant is growing equally so that I don't get leggy dominant branches on one side or on one of the branches. Taking a bit of a short-term sacrifice for not getting fruits 1 year or maybe 2 years, it gives you that scaffold to quadruple your harvests by having more branches that are well structured, that are all getting the same amount of energy. This one over here is not well structured, not well balanced, and that was to be expected because I notched this fig tree last year just to get a dominant branch and leafy growth on one branch before I did a hard prune. But what I'm going to show you is how to get this one that is completely off balance and off structure back into balance. If you haven't seen the video on notching a fig tree, I'll tag it for you because that is an invaluable technique. This branch here and that one and one down here has been notched where I want branches, not leaving it up to the tree to decide. So with notching, you get to put the branches where you want them, and then you can then control the distribution of energy and resources within the tree by the next technique I'm going to show you, and that's by tip pruning and bud selecting. Okay, so if we take a look at this plant, you can see a very clear leader with strong growth coming out the top. It even has swollen sections, which means the figs are getting ready to form up here. We don't want this to start producing fruit because right now we want to build a scaffold and a structure and not get fruit on this tree. You'll then see a couple of other little ones that are showing up, and you can clearly see the difference between leafy growth, new growth, putting out fruits, and new growth here. We need to make sure that this tree doesn't keep thinking this is the dominant branch, this is what I need to work on, and these are secondary. We want to shift that energy to make sure that the tree now knows this is not dominant and it needs to put its efforts into growing some of the other branches. So what are we going to do? The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to come and look at the tip. And you're going to take it between your fingers and you're literally just going to break the tip off. That's it. It's going to bleed. That's perfectly fine. It's the top of the tree. All the energy is going to the top. It'll heal itself. And that milky sap has everything it needs to seal up the wound and make sure it's okay. But what we have now done is we've now changed the signals in this tree to stop growing up and send energy and nutrients back down the stem. And now that we've done that, we need to shift our attention to the new growth. So you'll remember I talked about the notched branches. There's one, and here's one down here that still needs to grow. We need to get this one to grow, and the way we're going to do that is by 1, tip pruning, which I have at the top, and then 2, bud selection to make sure that we get the energy to come back down to this one and get our final branch coming out. So like I said, here are the 2 notched branches. These 2 have come out because we did a hard prune and all the energy came down, and these were just dormant buds that came up. However, in the shape that I want, which is an open vase shape, I don't want branches this close together. I don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all going different directions within this section. It's too much. So what I have is I've got one over there, I've got one down here going out that way, another one here going out this way, and then further down out here. So you can see how we're staggering the different layers, and that's going to give us airflow and sun, even distribution of sun, so that the figs can all get the same amount of exposure. So all we're going to do is, this is one that I don't want, just break it off. Here's one that I don't want, break it off. So now you can see we have a dominant leader that has been tip pruned. It's no longer going to keep pushing growth up at the top. These 2 haven't been tip pruned, so they're still going to have all the auxins in their tips. So they're going to shoot out now significantly quicker than the growth on this one. And now if we still don't get growth on this bottom node that has been notched, then with time, as these 2 catch up to this one, we'll then tip prune those 2 to then force all the energy that's left into waking up this bud and getting growth here before winter, so that we have a bit of a scaffold for it to grow in next spring. And then what I'd like to do is just show you this structure and growth on a well-balanced fig tree. Here you can see a nice branch coming out the center. If I move that one, you can see all the scaffolds coming out, which are creating that open vase. There's a certain amount of leaves on here, a certain amount of leaves on there, and here, and at the back. But you can see, if you were to guesstimate, they're all roughly the same. Maybe these top 2 are slightly more dominant, and depending on how the weather and the growth goes, if these 2 branches become too strong, we'll end up tip pruning these as well, just there and there, so that this branch and that one at the back can then catch up to those 2. And then we've got 4 equally strong, equally high branches that'll be able to grow together. But you can see this growth compared to this growth, what we're looking for. I'll do a follow-up on this one so you can see how it goes. A little bit of bleeding at the top, which is completely normal, and hopefully within no time this tree is going to look very similar to this in terms of its growth and energy distribution. So I hope you now know how to control the vigor and balance of strength in your fig trees, and that it gives you the knowledge to grow the best fig trees possible. Lots of growth, green growth, lots of photosynthesis, which is going to result in a lot of yummy figs. Now you know how to notch the trees to get the growth where you want. You know how to tip prune them to stop dominant branch growth. You know how to bud select to put energy into the branches you want. Then what we'll look at doing is do some follow-up videos on watering, nutrients, protecting fruits. We get quite bad infestation of fruit flies which destroy crops. So we'll do a video on that, and then a little bit of pest control. So that's all coming up. By the end of this, I hope you can become a master of figs, and that you just get to enjoy them as much as I do. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to help wherever I can. Please like the video if you liked it, and share it to your fellow fig growers. If there's anyone that you know that's got a fig tree, share it. Let's share the knowledge. The more we can grow as a community, the more we can learn, and the more we can look after and feed ourselves. Until next time, happy gardening.